Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about planning activities on vacation. Though these tips and tricks and items and all that stuff can apply and do apply to vacation, they also apply to not vacation stuff as well, which I'll remind you about later. And we've got a lot to tackle, so let's get to it. First, you and your family's interests. They're important. Don't forget them. I do want to clarify, though, first and foremost, while you're on vacation, don't put your interests so high that you lose the view of other people's dignity and humanity. Don't forget that. They're still human too. You know what it's like to have stress. You've got family members, or you yourself are an individual, or have individuals that you know and care about, that society does, has, or is saying bad things about, or negative things about, or diminishing things about. Especially as stress rises, it can be easy to lose or forget or neglect the humanity or dignity of others. Don't forget it, because you know what it's like to be on the receiving end or see someone you love on the receiving end of that kind of thing. We'll talk about this more later in video 9 when I tackle stress. But what I do want to mention it briefly here, and what I'm talking about is when you start to plan your activities that you do plan for on your vacation, it can be easy to be consumed also by the idea of how other people's vacations looked and wanting to get that look for your vacation. Don't. It can also be easy to get the itch to do what someone else did. Don't bother with that. What you want to do should be focused on what you and your family and your posse, the people traveling with you, enjoy. And that is not some faddish TikTok vacation or some Instagram photo-based vacation. If you want to see the Mona Lisa, go see the Mona Lisa to see the Mona Lisa. Don't see the Mona Lisa to grab a selfie. There's enough people doing that. It's not going to... You can grab a selfie when you're there, but that should not be the point of your visitation to the Mona Lisa. That should not be the point of your visitation to the Louvre. Mispronounced it because my tongue didn't want to work that moment. But anyway, please forgive me. You shouldn't go to the Grand Canyon just for a selfie. You should go to the Grand Canyon to see the Grand Canyon. Taking a few pictures for a scrapbook or to share, even an online scrapbook like Instagram. Yeah, sure, that's fine, but that shouldn't be the point, is what I'm getting at. It's about having fun and enjoying it together as a group, as an event together. That's the point. We have to remember and think, would I really enjoy that myself? Is it something that the people I care about would enjoy? That's the point. Our time here in life is limited. The moments that we get to spend together are even more limited. And they're not refundable. You can't be like, here's an extra $100, I want another hour with my kid. That's when you're 95, you don't get that option. You can't be like, here's an extra $100, I want to spend another 5 hours. I want to spend another hour with my kid when they were 10. You can't. Or I want to spend another hour with my kid when they were 16. You can't. That's a little harsh, but so make it about the moment and who they are now. Just a reminder, not trying to be harsh, not trying to be cold, just that call to remember that this is important. Remember, this moment shall pass, but the beauty is that you have it. Don't get wrapped up in the negative that it's going to pass. Wrapped up in the beauty that you have this moment with them, with the people that you love, that you have this moment in your life right now. Not everybody gets it. You're blessed to have it. It's an awesome asset. So that said, keeping in mind the things that you and your family members would enjoy yourselves together or as individuals, and planning for those things, what are some things that you can watch out for or look for or be mindful of as you're planning activities that can make things go better, go easier, or just to watch out for or be mindful of while you're planning these things? Let's get into it. We're going to start with performances. All right, so we're starting to talk with performances by themselves because performances are actually a big topic. Surprisingly to some people, I would assume. There's a lot to talk about, and there are two major performance topics that I think are important to discuss that are assets to the community of individuals with special needs, with disabilities, with the performance community has been very accommodating historically, at least in my experience. That's not necessarily shared, I know, but there are a number of performances out there and a growing number that are working to be there for individuals with disabilities and special needs. And that's a growing standard across all artistic endeavors. For me personally, carrying a sketchbook has been a way that I've been always able to be comfortable, increase my comfort levels at performances that's been acceptable across all performance standards because it's quiet and it's something that other people haven't found invasive. Now, that's not something everyone can do and it doesn't help everyone. And I've also been able to carry earplugs or just plug my ears because I like in-ear earplugs. I know a lot of people like the over-ear sound blocking, noise canceling headphones. Well, not necessarily headphones, but headsets. And I don't know how performance situations deal with people wearing those because we don't use those. If you have any information on that, please let me know down in the comments. That would be awesome to have that information. I haven't found anything on that yet personally. A lot of individuals struggle with requests for silence. Being quiet in a performance can be hard. It can be hard to sit still. Aside from bouncing a leg, most people don't see that. Most people aren't distracted by it unless they're sitting adjacent to it. Not having a screen for communication or understanding, or less for people who are hard of hearing, for people who can't quite see very well, having a lit screen that can tell you some of the visual things going on the stage might help. But that's not always available or possible, and that's not always acceptable, and can distract other people in traditional performance settings. So it can be really hard to know what to look for or to get access to what you need to fully enjoy performances, or it can seem that way at first. But there are targeted performances out there for people like who have disabilities. I spent a lot of my youth accommodating performance requirements, and so I've grown accustomed to it. There are performances, as I said, out there that are now designed for individuals who have either greater difficulties than I do, who have, or greater fluctuations in situations, or just so that people like me don't have to necessarily sit there and modulate ourselves and partition ourselves and have that cost on ourselves just to enjoy a performance. And that's a great thing. So let's get into those. The first is casual performances or relaxed performances. These are the biggest help that are out there now performance-wise. This is the biggest thing. These are actual settings where the traditional expectations are changed or fully removed. You're going to find, as we talked about, in most traditional Western performances, you're expected to stay in your seats until intermission. I know that's not, I've been to some non-Western performances, and you can just get up and go to the bathroom, or you can just, you're expected to just do things differently than you are in Western performances. There aren't these intermissions. Things are just designed differently and set up differently, and it's very different. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different from a Western performance. Traditional Western, say, stage performance. And similarly, in traditional Western stage performances, you're expected to maintain a certain level of physical and audible moderation of ourselves. You're limited on how you conduct yourself, what sounds come out of you. And it can be very difficult on individuals and families with special needs. And that's where relaxed or casual performances come in. These performances, you're quite often allowed to stand in aisles, or they're in fields or locations where you can just get up and move around. And not only you're encouraged to if you need to or want to. In many of them, you're allowed to make whatever noises you need to. In some of them, situations where things like cannons are fired or there's loud cracks or bright flashes, those are removed or dulled down in the interest of the audience to help, or there's warnings and other things incorporated into it as well when there is going to be some kind of, even the muted flash, there's a warning before it, or before the muted pop or whatever, there is a warning before it in some way, shape, or form. And so it's changed to help and be there for the audience. And this is useful not just for individuals with, physical disabilities or things like, or neurological disabilities, but also individuals with PTSD and other potentially psychological situations that have occurred during life or that are consequences of life itself, so to say, that they're working through or that they have going on. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But these performances can be super helpful for, sorry about that. But these performances can be super helpful for a huge variety of individuals. And they're becoming more and more prevalent. They're not every performance, and I don't expect them to ever be every performance. And I think that's okay. But I do think that their growth and their acceptance and their incorporation by the performing arts community is awesome, and there's something to look out for. Again, casual and relaxed performances. Now on to another benefit that is in the performing arts community that's not as huge, but still helpful. So locations will sometimes give you information on facets, qualities, facts about the performance itself. So even if it's not a relaxed performance or a casual performance, whatever they might call it, or there might be some finite difference between the two. There are a growing number that will tell you what to expect from a performance. And so when they're just not available, a large number of performances will make sure, or are willing to make sure, that you know what a performance includes. This especially includes loud noises, sudden flashes, physical or sensory inputs. There are some performances, such as, say, Blue Man Group, or some performances down in certain theme parks or amusement parks where they might have bursts of air to simulate things such as running mice or other things that don't actually happen, that are simulated through things such as bursts or puffs of air. You might be movements of the floor if you're in a performing location where you're actually sitting in a floating seating arrangement, where they might move your seating arrangement. They will let you know about that in handouts or other things where the floor may shift or move without, within a few feet or a few inches. Things that aren't actually dangerous, but it might surprise you if there are ramps or family bathrooms, if they're going to drop, like I said, some performances like Blue Man Group, they drop toilet paper on you. They might let you know that. Depending on how inventive the production is, modern or historical. Again, the cannon fire, some older productions, depending on where you are, they might have an actual flashbang or something, not a legitimate flashbang, but some kind of a firecracker or loud pop to simulate an actual cannon. I'm not sure how many places actually get actual cannons to fire, but I mean, there's nothing to say that you couldn't get something that's got a historically accurate cannon to go off if they have the funding. But some places also have things like ramps, family bathrooms, headphones for the hard of hearing, or visually impaired, sign language interpreters, and other bits of information that can be included in these handouts or informational updates. And that's important too for people who want to know about these things. And that's, separate from relaxed or casual performances, and they're also equally, if not more, helpful for some individuals. And that's important. And some of these information bits can be found online or in handouts. And if they're not, you can always ask. And by can always ask, I mean you should ask. Because if you're interested in a venue, reach out. If you don't ask, you won't know. I know some people give flack for people asking questions. If you don't ask, you don't know. If someone gives you flack, point out if you don't ask, you don't know. It's your experience. It's your family's experience. And if they aren't willing to give you the information, you don't need to give them your money, your time, your business, your energy. It's yours. It's your commodity. Go somewhere else. You're worth it. Like, seriously, you and your family are worth it. So, now that we've tackled performances, I want to move on to some other locations and special events, and let's get to that now. So for most families, it goes without saying, but do what you can. Before I actually get into the actual locations for a moment, I want to remind you, and I'll do a separate video on some stuff for this, and you probably already have your own systems, but it doesn't hurt to throw out extra ideas too, which I'll do in a separate video. But for most families, it goes without saying, but do what you can to remember to bring your own regulation, sanity, survival kits, or whatever you want to call it, to new or difficult circumstances. I mean, check and see what you're allowed to bring. But if there's other things that help in addition to your normal, just get necessity kits. If there's other things that help even more that you don't necessarily always bring with you, try and bring those extra things if you can, or have them nearby, like in the car or someplace relatively close by, especially if you're traveling, including if you're traveling with people who aren't considered family or aren't immediate family, who aren't used to traveling with you and the like. And we'll talk about things that can go wrong in later videos, but I just wanted to point out that if things go wrong, it's okay. Before we dive into this topic a little more, if things don't quite work out, whether it's in the planning phase, whether it's in the actual vacation phase or the event, when you're going to an event, if things don't work out, remember, these things happen. It's okay that things don't work out for the event. What matters is that you're there together. What matters is that you're there for each other. What matters is that you're okay. And you will be okay, and you are okay, and your loved ones are and will be okay. And vacations have bumps, quite often big ones, even for neurotypical families, and everything will be okay. So, on to the locations and events. I'm going to be talking about national, religious, political, educational, and other events and locations as we go through this. So, again, I wanted to tackle the performance ones first because those are big and I have the most to talk about on that. So let's get on to these other topics. So, educational locations and events. A growing number of educational locations, such as museums of various kinds, art, science, history, technology, sports, museums even, etc., are all thankfully doing pretty well at providing accommodations and ways for families and individuals with various disabilities to get the most out of what they have, they do, and they just keep, they provide, etc., including events on and off-site. Many have had ramps, elevators, and similar ease of access accommodations for a long time. There's a growing percentage of them that have recorded self-guided tours in some form or another. for individuals who prefer to go faster or slower, or have a mixed pace and pick up speed or slow down, or just prefer smaller groups or to be by themselves for experiencing whatever it is that they have on site: art, science, history, automotive, etc. Many have maps that are quick to give details about different things: demonstrations, loud noises, flashes, more, etc., etc. There are also many of these locations, and the people who work there are quick, not only quick, but eager and willing to help people across all disabilities to get access to the knowledge that they hold and they keep, and whatever it is, whether it's art, science, etc., because they're passionate about what it is. They want to share what it is. They want people to learn about what it is because they love it. That's why they're there. That's why they work there. That's why they take care of it. That's why that place is important to them, because they don't necessarily pay well. So that's why they work there, is because it's their passion. And so if they'll do their best to help you get whatever accommodations they have or they can, and if they can't help you the way that you need, a lot of these places have, and a lot of the people who work there have either some knowledge or they know someone there that they can talk to who knows, like if there's some bureaucratic red tape that prevents them from providing something that you need or some whatever, because someone who doesn't work on site hasn't financially allocated the means for them to do whatever they want to do to help you. They have some knowledge or some way to share with you some information to help you get knowledge about what they care about, or help you find some way to get access to something similar that's nearby or online, or some way that you can access it in a way that will help you and your family digest and process and get the closest experience and the best intake of that experience possible. And one additional form, I guess you could say, of accommodation that is to benefit families when you're on and off vacation from educational locations is that a growing number of museums, particularly museums, especially art museums around the world, are making a lot of their permanent exhibits available online for free so that they can be viewed by the public anytime, nearly anywhere. So even if you don't have the financial resources, you can still view some of these works from anywhere around the world without having to see lines, having to see people between you and whatever the work of art is, because they've taken the pictures and they've posted them online, so you can view the galleries without people between you and the art. And so you can take in this art and you can view it and you can look at it. Is it the same? No. I mean, topic for another time, but there has been research on it. And yeah, it's not the same on a neurological. Your brain doesn't process it quite the same. But you can still study the art, you can still look at it, and you can still take in its beauty. And it's great for kids to look at it that way. Natural locations. So, on to a more interesting one to think about: natural locations. How can one improve a vacation when visiting a natural location? So, these can seem and are difficult at times, though they also do have some laxity by their definition. They're natural, right? I mean, mostly, which provides both benefits and struggles to them. Probably not surprising for most people. Let's look at those struggles first. So the struggles with natural locations you will often find are very limited in the number of mobility aids. Limited number of ramps, limited number of wheelchair paths, and other physical mobility related benefits. There's definite limits on comforts. And electricity for recharging helpful communication or sensory devices is limited, unsurprisingly. And if you're there for long periods and have to use a lot of communication devices or aids, and for some reason they aren't charged beforehand, they're having battery storage trouble or something else, that can be a problem. With more open space, there's a higher risk for elopement for individuals at risk of elopement. Often, natural locations are removed from other places. You have to drive farther to get there, even to park, before you start walking around, and that can make it more stressful for individuals. Just to know that you're farther away can often also make it more difficult once dysregulation has occurred, if it does occur. And for a family member to need to leave and order to get regulation, it can take longer, consequently, to get back to wherever you need to go to get re-regulated. And that can be difficult. So, on to the benefits. There's potential for a lot of positive stimulation sources, physical stimulation sources, for individuals that don't elope or are safe, have a number of safe systems in place. There's often a lot of running space, or more than usual, and it's usually okay to run, at least in bits or in bursts back and forth. There's often large places or areas where being loud is acceptable, even if it's just the parking lot. And those things are benefits that aren't often found other places, so that can be nice, especially at the beginning or end of a visit to a location where you can get out. I know for some members of our family, being able to yell can be really quite relaxing or re-regulating. So if individuals have had a lot of fun or are overstimulated, or are just even a little overstimulated, even if it's not a lot, just letting out a yell and a little run, or if they're having a lot of fun, a little run or a yell can be really helpful for certain individuals. And sometimes natural locations can be great for that. So those are some things to consider. So, religious events and locations. Well, with millions of people going on pilgrimages and retreats each year across a multitude of religions, there's a huge number and variability in religious locations and events that one can consider or even base a vacation around, if that is your focus or an interest to you, your family, or your traveling group. It can be very important. There's no denying that. There's a massive variability in locations and mindsets due to this variation in beliefs, practices, etc. It also means that there is an, at least if not larger, variation in what to expect from these respective locations and events. In some cases, changes in funding or time of construction of locations or other factors can mean an even more massive change in what to expect or what's available from one location to another, even within a few minutes drive of each other in the same religious group in the same city, especially in more densely populated towns or areas. And so unfortunately, as these are often effectively either semi or fully privately run institutions, at least on the local level, the ability for prejudice or lack of understanding, knowledge, or wisdom to impact the availability of access to locations and events or accommodations for individuals with various disabilities and diagnoses is real. The ability to face prejudice from other attendees is also very real, and a fact that I realize is all too painful for families and for individuals. That doesn't mean you don't reach out if this is something that's important to you. If it's your faith, your beliefs, then you should follow through with what you believe in. You should reach out. You should do your checking. And if you're told something painful, I'm sorry. I don't know your faith. But I would say don't give it up due to a cold shoulder or pain from another person. It can hurt, and it will hurt at times, but don't give up hope, and don't give up that hope that you hold on to, and don't give up what you believe in because of one or two people who lack whatever it is that they're lacking in that moment. Sporting events. Sporting events and locations are also variable based on the sport and location. Some sports come with certain expectations upon those who watch them in person. Tennis and golf, they both have restrictions on how much noise you're allowed to make at certain points while you're attending, how much noise you can make at certain junctures, when you can move in golf when you're watching a golf, when you can cross certain areas of a path on a golf course can be limited. While others, such as American football, American soccer, or what the rest of the world calls football, have different expectations with them as well. Just as some comparative examples, in American football, you can scream till your lungs hurt 90% of the time and just get up and walk whenever you want. You can cover someone else in liquid beverage, 10% of the time, and they'll just be disgruntled and maybe a little upset with you, but they'll get over it. If it's an accident. If you accidentally cover someone in a liquid beverage at a golf game or a tennis match, you're going to be in some trouble. Just saying. Even if it was an accident. Similarly, what can be brought to locations, how things are carried on site, when you can even get up and walk about, quality and style of seating, availability of physical disability seating, where it is, the view of play from disability seating, audio and visual aids for observing play. I don't know if that's quite the terminology to use for that. Doing the best I can with the wording on that. I don't know if it's observing or just in taking in the game going on. It can vary so drastically that it can be eye-watering, that it would need to be covered on a location-by-location basis. You need to go to a location and figure out exactly what accommodations, what the rules and regulations are socially, what the normal average, sometimes things like ambient temperature, that itself can be an impact. Like, what's the risk of dehydration for individuals, because that can play into effect so much. So many factors that it's, like I said, eye-watering. And as always, it always bears repeating, but ask. Self-advocate for yourself. Advocate for your family. Do your research on websites. Sure. But always email or call, or always ask to get confirmations and points of contact. It's your investment financially. It's your investment time-wise. And your money into their organization. They should be working with you and your family for your needs, because you are their customer. And if they want you to give them your money, your time, your energy, they should be giving you their energy, their time, their care, because you deserve it. National or political events and locations. So for this one, I'm going to be talking about America. So in America, at least, not every national monument or political location or event is accessible to everyone. To me, that's not only heartbreaking, it's disappointing. Though even that's an understatement, and perhaps I'll point out my feelings fully on that another time. For now, we're going to focus on facts. Most locations in the United States aren't remotely accessible, and if they are at most have ramps, some American Sign Language, and Braille, with some spotted other accommodations. While nice. The ramps or wheelchair access may not be for a whole site. And either those who have full reliance or some reliance on various forms of mobility or assistance can find that they won't be able to experience the entirety of many sites. There's spotted mentions of other accessibility aids, as I pointed out, on site-by-site basis, but when some places even consider a gift shop an accessibility, that's something that sort of tells you where we're at. So always check sites for specific locations. Always reach out. At time of recording, though, I wouldn't expect much for neurological or even many physiological disabilities at these locations across the United States. And I don't know what to expect elsewhere in the world, but as I've said with other locations here, do your research, do your checking, because you are worth it. Your family is worth it. It's your time, your energy. You are worth it. I know I already said that, but it bears repeating. So, planning events on vacation and off of vacation can be a lot of work for individuals, for you, for me, for families, and for groups with individuals that happen to be, to have one or more disabilities that impact life, whether they happen to have autism or any other disability. It's worth it, though. It's worth the time and effort to do the planning. It's worth the time and effort and even the heartbreak or anger or pain or frustration, and that can be there. It's worth it to do the research, to do the work and legwork, to get more out of the vacation, or again, to pursue these activities off of vacation. And everything will be okay. You can still have an awesome time. Try not to worry. And I emphasize try. I know it's hard to not worry. Everything will be okay. Somehow, some way. So before we end this video, I want to say thank you for watching. I'm glad you're here. You and your family are loved, and you matter, all of you. Every single member of your family. Life can be incredibly difficult and unforgiving. Things can be stressful. Things can be hard. It can be hurtful. People can be hurtful. People can be angering. People can be a lot of things. You matter. If you're at a place in your life where you have these emotions that are welling up, where people are causing pain, where life is hurtful, difficult, know that you're not alone, that you and your loved ones are worth it, and that your moments, your days are, even if they're hard, that they're important. And I'm glad you're here, and you make a difference. And so did the ones you love. I'm Mike Malcolm. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and click like, and throw any thoughts or feelings or comments down below in the comments section, or questions or anything you'd like to hear about. Again, I'm Mike Malcolm. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.